I'm sure many of you are familiar with Carl Benjamin, aka Sargon of Akkad. You may also know that he was involved in a lawsuit. Some of you might not know anything about this, but let me just say, this is one of the most epic examples of how a lot of these far left individuals, these activists, are completely immature, really naive, ignorant, and just all around stupid. So for those that aren't familiar with what's going on, I'll give you some quick context. The story we have from Reclaim the Net: Carl Benjamin sues Akkad Hughes to reclaim legal fees, accusing Hughes of weaponizing copyright law. The suit claims Hughes made an attempt to muzzle an ideological opponent through wrongful use of copyright law. It all goes back to 2016. I believe it was 2016. Akkad Hughes is one of these social justice activist types. She produced a video called something like "We Thought She Would Win." It was a long clip from, I think, some kind like the Hillary Clinton watch party or whatever in the election, something like that. Well, Sargon took a couple pieces and he made a video that was essentially, called like the absolute state of SJWs or something like that. It was criticizing Akkad Hughes. She decided to file a copyright suit against him, and some interesting things happen. The first thing I want to say is that I find a lot of these activists are extremely, as I mentioned, ignorant, naive. You look at how they operate on college campuses, and you can see that they have no understanding of how adults work, how the real world works, and they're in for a rude awakening. They are being coddled and propped up with safe spaces, so they think the world is all candy canes and rainbows. They think in college, when someone comes and says a naughty word, they can go retreat to their safe space to hide from those naughty words. In the real world, adults, courts, will not give you these privileges and treat you like a baby. They will toss you out into the wolves in 2 seconds. So Akkad was openly bragging about how she was trying to shut down Sargon of Akkad. Again, I'm assuming most of you know who Sargon is. If you don't, he's a big YouTuber, got a lot of followers. He's a liberalist, anti-feminist, etc. So he's very critical of the SJWs. She was actively tweeting like a moron, I must say, and I'm not trying to be mean. I mean, you have to be really stupid to file a lawsuit and then just keep tweeting about your intentions and your motives. This ultimately resulted in Sargon winning, and now he's going after legal fees. And it looks like, according to another Leonard French, who's a lawyer on YouTube, this left-wing grifter was so bad and so entitled and narcissistic that she might be out 30 grand or maybe even more, maybe 40 grand. Personally, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if they can do punitive damages in this direction or how that might work. But let me just say, this is a story about a social justice warrior, yes, I will use the pejorative, who tried to exploit copyright law, that's exactly what it looks like, that's what they're arguing, to punish an ideological opponent, but openly bragged they were doing it to the point where the court just threw it in the trash. And now Sargon, the anti-feminist, might actually get her to pay for all his legal fees. And I got to say, it seems pretty reasonable. Let's read the story. And I want to talk, I had some concerns that this story might be too YouTube-centric, too esoteric. But it's a fascinating example of how the modern left is so arrogant. They think the world revolves around them. They think they're going to get a free pass. There are rules. There are reasonable expectations. And courts do not play the games they think that they will play. A judge will look at this, and they don't care if you're a marginalized or oppressed group. They're going to say, here are the words before me. Do they fit the law? Are they reasonable? Akkad Hughes was not reasonable. She was openly tweeting, let's bankrupt this a-hole. Let's get him banned from GoFundMe. Let's take away his ability to defend himself. That is not what copyright law is for. And she was trying to take down legitimate criticisms, and she openly said as much. It's mind-boggling how arrogant and narcissistic these far leftists are. Reclaim the Net reports, YouTuber Carl Benjamin of the channel Sargon of Akkad is asking to be awarded attorney's fees in a case resulting from a lawsuit brought on by fellow YouTuber Akkad Hughes that he has, in the meantime, won. Previously, Hughes lost her copyright infringement lawsuit filed in the U.S. against Benjamin, a UK-based creator. The two fall on opposite sides of the liberal versus conservative divide, and the online and legal row between them erupted in the aftermath of the 2016 U.S. presidential election. But after a U.S. judge recently ruled to dismiss Hughes' allegations. Benjamin decided to sue for legal costs, asking to be awarded a total of some $39,000. Well, the end of the actual, I have the actual filing because they link to it. The total is $33,000, but I think they do ask for an additional $5,000 for other related costs. So I don't know if that's the total, because at the bottom it does say $33,000 plus 126. So I think they're wrong. I think, oh no, okay, it might actually be the additional $5,000. We'll see what happens. Reclaim the Net says, in summarizing the case, the filing mentions that Hughes, a Hillary Clinton supporter, is a YouTube celebrity who has been publicly mocked for her political opinions by Benjamin. The way he did this was to use Hughes' own video recording during Clinton's election night party in New York City. Hughes responded by claiming copyright breach, but Benjamin defended himself, citing the fair use protection, an argument that the court eventually accepted as valid. I got to stop right there. Here's where it gets crazy. It would seem that there was a preliminary hearing before anything even happened, where the judge literally told this, far leftist Akilah Hughes and her team, there is no case, basically saying this is quintessential fair use. Like, what are we doing? And she still decided to move forward anyway. I got to say, I'm reading Sargon's filing requesting legal fees. Not only does it seem reasonable, but I'm going to have to agree with Leonard French, who he's a YouTube lawyer. He made a video called Sargon's Epic Attorney Fees Motion. It does absolutely seem epic. Like, I'm reading this Sargon's, we'll go through it. But I got to say, the arguments and the evidence they present, like actual screenshots of Akilah's tweets, it looks so good. I'm biased, totally. But I feel like there needs to be some kind of punishment beyond just legal fees. I mean, this was willful social justice warrior exploitation of the courts, publicly bragging they were doing it to try and cause harm to an ideological opponent who isn't even in America. That to me is mind-boggling. I don't know if the courts can implement punitive damages or anything in this direction, but man, I gotta say, if I was a judge and I saw this, someone bragging they were exploiting my court, well, I'd be furious. But of course, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how that works. They're probably a bit more stoic than that and might just say, no, we can't do this. Let's read. They say one detail from the ruling was that the judge found that although Benjamin did not add any of his own commentary to his own video, based off of clips that had previously been posted by Hughes, the power of editing sufficed to produce a new expression of an idea. In other words, what is protected under U.S. copyright laws is transformative work. But not only that. In Akilah's initial filing, she literally said Sargon's intent was to humiliate or demean. These people think mean words are prohibited. She actually thought, I don't know who her lawyers were, but I'll tell you this, man. Be wary of lawyers that ask, look, so many stupid people. They go to a lawyer, they say, I want to file a lawsuit, and the lawyer goes, sure, give me $5,000 retainer and we'll get started. Because the way they see it is, work's work. If this person wants to file a lawsuit, you pay me, I'll write the papers. Bad advice. But what do you expect? You think a lawyer is going to come to you and say, we will absolutely lose this? No, they're going to be like, hey, if you want to do it, you give us the money and we'll write it up. They actually argued in the initial filing, this is demeaning and humiliating. It's like, who did you hire? Did you hire like social justice lawyers who think hate speech should be illegal and that naughty words are no longer allowed? Like, you got to be nuts to literally admit in your filing, this is commentary and criticism on what I'm doing. The literal intent is to criticize me. I want it. I want money for it. That's not what copyright law does. The point of copyright law is to protect your market, your business. So fair use is actually fairly broad. Like, I'm fair using Reclaim the Net to comment on their story in a variety of ways. It's absolutely, I'll put it this way. I can't believe we are entering a future where we have an entire generation of people who think the courts will be based on their fifis. That they can be like, he was mean to me, therefore I deserve copyright infringement money. And the court's going to be like, bye, facts don't care about your feelings. Now, of course, they like to mock, Ben Shapiro's facts don't care about your feelings, but it's not even a conservative point. The courts don't care about your feelings. Was your market infringed upon? No. Were you trying to weaponize copyright law? Seemingly, yes. In which case, Sargon might actually win. They go on to say the crux of Benjamin's argument has been that the lawsuit against him was essentially weaponizing the copyright law in order to win a political argument and exact ideological revenge rather than actually make a valid copyright claim. I'm going to say it for the millionth time. We have a left I don't know what happened to the modern left. People like Sargon, he's a classical liberal, people like Dave Rubin, the politically homeless people like me, who have always been somewhat on the left, like center leftists, liberals. Now people are leaving the left. I don't know what happened, but when people like us started walking away, what was left was this weird shell of mindless, arrogant, narcissist, moral authoritarians who are just incredibly dumb. I throw it back. Here's a point I've been making for the past couple weeks, right? I'm watching this Jon Stewart Daily Show episode where he's basically praising Project Veritas. None of these people would do this today because Jon Stewart, he knew what was right. Whether it was a conservative journalist or otherwise, if the story was good, he would talk about it. But when he left, what not just him, but he's an example. What rises from that empty space are arrogant narcissists who all of a sudden have all this attention and don't know how anything works, but are so entitled, they think they can publicly brag and still win a lawsuit. Check out these tweets from Akila. She said, so this carnival barker that I'm suing for copyright infringement just got banned from Patreon, where he was making $10K a month for overt racism and harassment. I'll give her opinion. Hey, she's allowed to have one, but that's not true. That's a mischaracterization. Do you think we can get GoFundMe to drop him? In his GoFundMe, he lists that the funds are for a, quote, frivolous lawsuit brought on by Akilah Hughes. Seeing as I'm about to win this case, can I sue to get that money since it would be libel? Asking for let's bankrupt this a-hole. They say one of the tweets the suit suggests shows that Hughes was interested in taking Benjamin down more than she was interested in protecting her copyright. Let me just point out, she doesn't like Sargon. She wants to shut him down because his words were mean to her. So she tried exploiting the courts. Copyright law is to protect your intellectual property. The argument should be, I run a business where I produce content for my audience, and by Sargon taking those bits of content for whatever reason, infringed upon my ability to use that content to monetize for my business. That would be the better argument, but that's not the argument she even made, and regardless, it's still a losing argument. You're allowed, people take clips from my channel all the time. I don't care. They pull them out of context, they lie, they cheat, and they steal, and you know what? Free speech comes with pitfalls. I wish they didn't do it. Sometimes it is defamation and libel. Typically, it's people with dumb opinions. So they say the filing reads, as part of the same tactics, plaintiff later publicly suggested on Twitter that she had reported defendants' hate content to Patreon in an attempt to have Sargon banned. And in keeping with her strategy to repurpose copyright law as viewpoint-based censorship, she reblogged with apparent approval a suggestion to, quote, drown out fascists, not by criticizing their viewpoint, but rather by bringing a speaker to play copyrighted music at their rallies, because it will be easy to report their videos and get them taken down. These people are so brazen in their ignorance and entitlement, they would publicly state their intention is to target ideological opponents through exploiting the courts. I'd be surprised if Sargon doesn't win legal fees. Reclaim the Net says, all that's left now, see whether or not this multi-year saga will have its conclusion in the court, awarding Benjamin the legal fees as well. But much more importantly, if the case might discourage future attempts to abuse copyright law as a weapon against political opponents on the internet. Now, the filing is absolutely fascinating reading. I gotta say, this is more fascinating. This is more engaging reading through the arguments than a good fiction novel, I must admit. I pulled this up, and there's so much here, man. Akilah Hughes and her cohorts, I can't believe how stupid they are. And I'm not trying to be mean. I mean it literally. They're just not smart enough to have actually thought out how to proceed with some kind of action against Sargon to win this fight. It seems like this was a legal courtroom temper tantrum. Let me give you some advice. When you're dealing with legal matters, a pending lawsuit, shut the up. Don't talk about it. Well, here's the thing. Akilah goes on Twitter screeching and howling, bragging about how she's going to take him down for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Not true. Exaggerating. Using it to promote her channel and her content. Trying to boost her brand by saying, look at me, I'm going after this, fascist or whatever. You know what Sargon did? He shut up. He shut up. He said nothing. In fact, I would ask him, I'd be like, hey, is that what's going on? Oh, I can't talk about it, mate. And I'd be like, smart move. Just mum's the word. He did an update like, hey, I need legal fees to go, to win this. His fans helped him out. That was about the end of it. Akilah goes out bragging and screeching, and now she looks completely unreasonable. But here's where it gets really crazy. When I'm talking about how crazy and how stupid you have to be to try and do what she did, let me see if I can find it, because it's not. I think I might be able to search for this. Actually, let's just go down. Basically, she was told by the court that this was quintessential fair use. Maybe I can just do that. There we go. So let me read you what they say. Even before he appeared in the case, Sargon warned plaintiff that the fair use doctrine barred her claims. He informed plaintiff by letter that if she chose to proceed, defendant would prevail and would seek attorney's fees under the Copyright Act. Now, at one point here, they actually say that upon warning her counsel this was the case, they quit. Akilah's lawyers, it's my understanding, I could be wrong, quit, and she hires new counsel. They say new counsel appears. Here's what they say. New counsel appeared for the plaintiff at initial conference. There, the court asked counsel to explain why defendant's work was not quintessential fair use. The court observed that the only question presented by the complaint is whether fair use defense can be decided on a motion to dismiss or whether it would have to wait until summary judgment. There's actually a quote in here where she said, where they actually show exactly what the judge said. That would seem to me to be kind of quintessential fair use, right? Apparently, the case was so decisive in Sargon's position that it was shut down in a motion to dismiss. So basically through reading this, and look, you got to understand these filings are biased, right? It's their argument. The argument was that typically when it comes to fair use, the court likes to observe all of the facts surrounding it, look at the evidence, but it was so glaringly obvious to Sargon, or I'm sorry, to the courts, that Sargon, what he did was fair use. They dismissed it in a motion to dismiss, shutting them down. Now, what's also interesting, they argue Akilah never actually asked for a settlement. They say, well, here, check it out. Plaintiff made no settlement offer at all until the March 2018 initial conference, despite having been warned by the court that her claims lacked merit. Plaintiff demanded $46,000 to resolve the case. Oh, that's strange. She was posting on Twitter that she was going to take them for hundreds of thousands. The unreasonable demand exceeded not only any conceivable recovery, but also the cost to defendant to have plaintiff's claims dismissed on their merits. So, look, I'm not a lawyer. Apparently, another lawyer on YouTube has said this is amazing. It's huge. This, to me, shows a couple important things. You're not crazy, all right? I've talked to a lot of people who are like former liberals, former leftists, anti-SJW, whatever it is, conservative. A lot of people have wondered whether or not they really are on the right or wrong side of history. Are the SJWs really crazy? Are we in a bubble? Who's in the bubble? They're in the bubble. This is another really important example. When you see how insane and entitled they are, but how decisively they lose in reality. They do not live in reality. Sargon was smart, calm, collected, kept his mouth shut, and he won, and he very well may win these fees. From their side, it's this bubble world where they go on Twitter bragging about how they're going to exploit the legal system for personal and ideological gain. It's shocking to me. It's shockingly obvious that many of these people, the arguments they make, so this extends beyond just the legal court. Like, let me explain. These people go to Twitter and say this person's dangerous. These people go to YouTube and say ban these people. And guess what? These companies bend over backwards. When it goes to the actual courts, they review the data, the evidence, and say, nope, dismissed. This is one of the biggest problems with the power the left has. First, I think if we start entering the real world, if YouTube, Twitter, Facebook start backing away and just saying, look, if you got a problem, you've got to deal with it in the courts, like YouTube has done with copyright, you can see how it really results. Or you can see what it results in. So basically, in bubble world, like colleges, they get people banned because of their fee-fees. When it comes to Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, they get people banned because of their fee-fees. But when it comes to actual law, they get obliterated. Now, what will be truly interesting is if Sargon wins. I got to be honest. I'm biased here. But it's about time we saw some victories. So this is absolutely good news. Sargon going on the offensive, also good news. Sargon won. That's great. But that was a defensive victory. Now he's going on the offensive, and it's about time we start seeing people push back against the woke lunatics who are trying to exploit the system to take down their ideological opponents in nefarious and malevolent ways. So that's all good news. But now Sargon is on the direct offensive, kind of. It's still a bit of a defensive position to recover his losses. I am personally hoping the courts can and do some kind of punishment, some kind of punitive damage. Like, you tried to manipulate us, you wasted our time, you bragged about it. No way. It would be absolutely epic if the courts, I don't know if they have the ability to, but instructed another, 40K on top as a penalty for purposefully and willfully exploiting the court and wasting everyone's time. The courts exist for honest, good faith reasons. Now, let me end by saying this. Akilah Hughes is the definition of a grifter. Did Sargon of Akkad weaponize the suit to make money? He didn't. He kept his mouth shut. He defended himself. He's winning, and he's still only asking for his fees. That to me was shocking. You know why? Sargon is a very famous political commentator. His time is extremely valuable. He's not asking for his time to be compensated. That's, to me, kind of shocking, actually, but honorable. I think Sargon's entitled to all of the hours he spent defending this. Look, the lawyers get paid, right? That's fees. But what about the time and energy Sargon had to spend on this frivolous case? Isn't he entitled to his time that was lost? I don't know. He's not even asking for it. It's honorable. He has been nothing but reasonable this whole time. So what we can see is an absolute grifter who has tried to use this case to promote her career, to rally her fan base, to get her ideological opponents banned from various platforms. Apparently, she contributed to getting Sargon banned on Patreon, and they played the game. So now you can see a vindictive, angry, and amoral individual who wants nothing but money and power, who will lie, cheat, and steal to get it, manipulating the courts, rallying her fans, saying, come on, look what I'm doing. This is great, and actively trying to stop Sargon's ability to defend himself. Talk about disgusting, amoral behavior. See, not only did she not actually try to protect copyright, she was trying to remove Sargon's legitimate ability to stage a defense. Our Constitution has certain protections in it, specifically so that when you are faced in the courts, you get a fair trial. She wants to undermine that fair trial and say, I'm going to win by any means necessary. I'll end with one final thing. Copyright law exists so that, look, if someone took my whole video and then put it up on a different platform and started making money on it or building a base or building followers because they were trying to exploit it, that's a copyright violation. Someone's trying to use my content. Now, if they take clips of it, even long ones, and I'll tell you this too, I got to be honest, I'm a bit of a fair use absolutist. If someone took one of my videos and opened it by saying, guys, Tim Pool is an absolute moron, watch this video and then I'll explain why he's a moron, and they literally played the whole thing, I still would be like, that's fine. Personally, a lot of people probably would take issue with it, but I wouldn't. I'd be like, go for it. You can play the whole 25 minutes and then afterwards be like, remember that part at minute 17 where Tim said these things? What an idiot. And that was it. There you go. I am very much in favor of these fair use laws. I think it's very important for a lot of reasons: to advance the conversation, to be allowed to criticize lunatics like, this woman. I will add one final thing, just as a final caveat, to be fair. I worked at the same company as Akilah very briefly. We never directly worked together. She has accused me of being a liar in the past, so I'm absolutely biased. Take it for what it is. But I try to explain the whole time. I'm like, I'm totally biased. But let's be real. Sargon kept his mouth shut, and that was smart. And she mouthed off and bragged about how she was exploiting the system, and now she's lost. Let's see where this goes. This is a step in the right direction in the culture war, in shutting down these moral authoritarians who are so brazen in their arrogance. They brag that they're exploiting and taking advantage of our goodwill. Stick around. Next video is coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel, and I will see you all then.